Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be looking at a battery monitor from LNEX. Alright, here's what you get when you open the box. You get your battery monitor user manual, and it is actually full of pretty good information. There are a couple of spelling errors, but I'm not surprised when it comes to the user manual, like battery and monitor right there, but you know what they're talking about, so I'm not too worried about that. Let's see, also you get a 500 amp shunt. Then this is the data cable to the monitor, and here is the wire that goes to the battery positive. It also comes with a couple of 250 amp copper battery connectors. It comes with a 10-foot data cable to go to the monitor. It comes with the battery monitor itself and a 10-foot cable for the battery positive. And it also comes with a little wrench, which is strange, but what I think it is since there's this acrylic right here, you'll probably need this pretty small profile wrench to get in here to make sure that this thing is tight. Yeah, so we'll probably be using that later. All right, first impressions. This right here kills me. They spelled battery wrong on the actual battery monitor itself. I'm sorry, but on your product, this is going to be, customer facing. You have to spell stuff right on customer facing products. I mean, this just screams, we don't double check our work. So right off the bat, I don't have high hopes for this just because they spelled battery wrong on the monitor itself. In the manual, I'm okay with that. You find spelling mistakes in these manuals all the time, but you usually don't find spelling mistakes right on the unit itself. So that right there is a huge red flag, but we're going to go ahead and test it out anyway, just so we can get a full view of what this thing can do. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and connect it up. Here's what you need to connect this battery monitor up to a battery and well, you'll need an inverter also. So let's look at those components. All right, first you need a battery. This is a 275 amp hour 12 volt battery from SunFunKits. It's in a heated bag right now. I'll be disconnecting it and taking it out, but that's what I'm going to be using for my battery source. Here are the cables I'm going to be using, and since we're going to be connecting that shunt, we're going to want to have two negative cables and then a positive cable. It's always a good idea to have a fuse whenever you're working with batteries and inverters, just in case something goes wrong. We won't be using those, but we will be connecting the shunt, the data cable, the battery positive to the monitor, and we'll probably be using this little wrench, which is pretty handy. And then for our inverter, we're going to be using the 12 volt 5000 watt Mxmoonfree pure sine wave inverter, because why not? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get all this wired up. Then we'll make sure that the battery is completely charged up to 100%, and then we're going to go ahead and do a capacity test on this battery, because I actually want to try out this SunFunKits battery. I want to compare what the BMS shows compared to what the battery monitor shows. All right, so I'm just in the middle of connecting this battery up right here, and I was taking the bolts off of the shunt. Look at the surface area of the shunt. I mean, this is the PCB right here, and then there's just a little tiny section of connection right here. I mean, this is a 500 amp shunt, but boy, I mean, this is plastic, and this is just a little tiny thin sheet of metal before it connects to the actual big brass or copper underneath. So I mean, this thing, I wouldn't push 500 amps through this. That would scare me. And we're not going to be pushing it like that anyway, but because let's look at my Victron shunt real quick. See, the Victron shunt it's connected, I mean, you're bolting your wires directly to the shunt. I mean, so you're getting a very big, you know, you're not connecting it to a little thin piece of metal, or you're not connecting it to plastic. I mean, it's straight copper. So, and then when you're comparing it with that, that's kind of scary. That's just my initial view of this. It's, I just don't like the plastic with the little thin piece of metal right here. But let's go ahead and continue. Yeah, and when you're connecting this, I've got it all the way tight, but yeah, it just spins. The bolt underneath spins freely. So that's why they included, you know, like I said before, that's why they included this little wrench, so that way you could put it under here and then tighten this up the rest of the way. To tighten this, you're going to need 2 wrenches. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do the other side, connect it up, and we'll start using the monitor. Okay, and I just got everything all connected up right here, but I connected it wrong. Yeah, I mean, even though it looks perfectly fine, you have to make sure and connect your shunt in the correct direction. If you look at the bottom of the shunt, I'm not sure if I can zoom in that close. On the right-hand side, there are a couple of negative symbols, and that side needs to go to the battery. So I need to take this off and turn it around so the negative side goes to the battery, and the side that doesn't have any markings goes to the power source. Okay, I just turned around my shunt, so now it's facing the correct direction, and I connected the data cable to the monitor. That's nice because the data cable, it can only go in one direction. There's no way you can actually accidentally switch that around. I'm just about to connect the battery positive. The one thing I did notice is that the wire, first of all, both sides are just bare wire. There's no ring connector. So you'll need to have you'll need to put on your own ring connector to connect it to your battery. I wouldn't recommend just stripping it and wrapping it around the post. And then also, there's 10 feet of this wire. It just needs to go from the shunt to the battery positive. So I don't think you need 10 feet. I mean, I can't see people having their shunt 10 feet away from their battery source. You know, please leave in the comments if you do have a setup where you have 10 feet of cable between your shunt and your battery. So honestly, I think if they could probably get away with 5 feet or even 3 feet of the battery positive cable. And then also, there's no fuse on this cable. I would highly recommend getting some inline fuses. I mean, you can get some where all you gotta do is just crimp it onto your existing wire. You know, I got like, I think it's like a two, it's a 2-pack. I'll leave this in the description along with all the rest of these things, so you can click on them to find out more information. And if you want to buy it, it just makes it that much easier. But since this is just testing purposes, I'm going to go ahead and just use this battery positive wire. But for a permanent solution, you really need to make sure there's a fuse on here. I got my ring terminal on. I'm going to go ahead and hook it up to the battery. Okay, I have everything all connected. You can see that my battery positive is going to a fuse, which is going to my battery positive on my inverter. Battery negative is going to the shunt. It's in the proper direction. I have my data cable and my battery positive cable, and it's going to my battery positive over here, and it's going to the negative side of my inverter. And then here is the battery monitor that's actually turned on as soon as you connect the battery positive. As soon as it turns on, it shows 100%, 6.55 amp hour, and then it shows the amount of time probably left in the battery. We're gonna have to charge this battery all the way up to 100%, so that way this thing knows where 100% is. And then I think we're gonna have to tell it the amp hour of the battery bank. So this is 275 amp hour, so we're gonna have to switch that. If you press up, it makes the display brighter, which is nice. And if you press down, it brings it down to there. So it's actually very easy to see. It also has this plastic cover, so once you're done messing with it, you don't accidentally press the buttons. So that's actually pretty nice. Another thing I like about this is it has actual clips, because it is meant to clip into like a, like a dashboard or something like that. All you need to do is cut out the hole and you would just press this thing right in and it would fit right in. Okay, and to change the available amp hours, or what the max capacity of the battery is, you'll hold down the OK button for 3 seconds, and then we will hit, let's see, OK. And then we're going to change the amp hours, and then hit OK. And then that sets the amount of amp hours to 275. And then the ring goes around, and it sets it to 0. So we're going to go ahead and charge this battery up the rest of the way, and then we're going to set this so it's at 100%. Okay, our battery is full, judging by our battery charger. So now we're going to set this to 100%. So let's go ahead and raise this up. Hold this down for 3 seconds. There we go. You hold that down as long as you have the amp hours set. Now it says 100%, and that there are 275 amp hours left in this battery. If we look at the SunFunKits app, we can see right here it says 275.97 amp hours remaining in the battery. So I would say we are set to go. So I'm going to go ahead and get all the stuff plugged in to do a 0.2C test. That will be for a 275 amp hour battery. That will be right around 700 watts. So we're going to go ahead and get all that set up and start the test. Okay, and now to start my very scientifically proven test, I have as my power source one 400 watt halogen lamp, 100 watt incandescent light bulb, and 2 fans. Let's go ahead and turn on the inverter. Well, actually, let's start the test on the tablet. Test started successfully. Okay, and let's go ahead and turn on the inverter. Hello everyone, and I just wanted to let you know we're about a third of the way through this this test, and let me just show you some numbers of what I'm getting for amp draw, which is interesting, I guess. Okay, so the LNEX monitor says that our amp draw is right at 60 amps. And then the SunFunKits BMS monitor actually shows the amps being 62 and a half. Let's just say roughly 62 and a half. But then when I do the amp draw, we're getting 61.6. It seems like this is low, this is high, and this is right in the center. And also this test says that we're going to have about 3 hours and 15 minutes left. And right now it is 12:25. So this test should be done at 3:45. So I'm going to come back down around 3:40 and we'll see where we're at. Okay, we are reaching the end of our test, so let's see what we're looking at. The LNEX color, or the battery monitor, we're showing it at 2%, and it says that we have about 7.6 amp hours left, or right around a little over 6.5 minutes. And our current voltage is 11.3. Over here on the SunFunKits, it doesn't say how much time we have left, but I noticed that the voltage is 11.47. And so it's actually showing a higher voltage than the shunt is. Let's go ahead and look at what the multimeter says and kind of compare all three when it comes to the voltage. But the voltage on the SunFunKits shows 11.23. This shows 11. And if I actually do a multimeter on the battery, it shows 11.1, 11.09. So again, the voltage is right in the middle. It's actually closer to the LNEX battery monitor than it is the SunFunKits. So I'm not sure, but I feel like the SunFunKits shows a little bit higher of a voltage, but it's showing it directly from the BMS. So I guess that's to be expected. And this test will shut off at 10 volts. All right, we're starting to get a beep from the inverter, and that tends to happen around 10.5. Let's see if we turn the inverter on. Yeah, it's showing that the input is 10.5 on the inverter. So that's why it's starting to beep. And we're showing 10.6 on the LNEX, or the LNEX. And we're showing 10.77 on the SunFunKits. We got 10 volts here. So everything should, and there it goes. So the SunFunKits shows that there was a 279 amp hours in this battery, which, coming straight from the BMS, that's probably very accurate, since there are zero loss in that at all. Let's see if we can get this battery monitor turned back on. All right, I'm trying to turn this battery monitor back on. I'm hoping I can just give it a little bit of a charge to maybe wake up the battery monitor. There we go. Yeah, so the battery monitor shows that there's 2.23 amp hours left in this battery. I bet if I ran it again, it would probably run it back down to 10, and I could get that last 2 amp hours. So I feel that this LNEX battery monitor is actually very accurate, because if I were to turn this back on, I bet I could squeeze out that last 2 amp hours. All right, well, there is the discharge test using the LNEX battery monitor. I think this battery monitor is actually very accurate. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to charge this SunFunKits battery back up to 100%, which will take almost 10 hours. And we'll see what the shunt says after that. All right, we are now charging with 30 amps. You can see right there, it shows 29.6 amps being charged. So yeah, it says it'll take about 9 hours and 11 minutes, which is, I would say that's very close, because it's a 275 amp hour battery and charging at 30 amps per hour. Yeah, you gotta think it's gonna take about 9 hours. So that will be like 3 or 4 in the morning. So when I get up tomorrow morning, I will check on it and we'll see what the monitor says. All right, it is now the next morning. It's actually 6:40 in the morning, and let's look at this monitor, see what it says after a full charge. Yeah, and look at that, it's right back to 100%, 275 amp hours. So in my opinion, yeah, the discharge and the charge algorithm that it uses are squared away. So you don't see that you have like a 100% discharge and then like 102% charge or something like that. I guess what I'm saying is that I believe that this monitor is actually really good. I think it's very accurate, and I would actually feel pretty confident using this in my setup. The only thing that I would be hesitant about is pushing a lot of amperage through it. It does say that it's a 500 amp shunt, but the build quality doesn't feel like it would be able to handle 500 amps. So if you have a low amperage or a moderate amperage situation where you're only pushing 100 amps at most at one time, this shunt would be really good for it. But if you're going to be pushing heavy amperage, 500, or if you're going to go up something to 1,000 and try to get a bigger shunt, I would go with something with a little bit more quality build to it, I guess you could say. Also, man, that misspelling on the front of the monitor itself, that just kills me. You would have to explain that to everybody, and their first impression and my first impression was, boy, this thing is not going to work very good, or not have a long lifespan. With all that being said, thank you so much for watching this video. If you like this video, please hit that like button. If you have any questions about how I tested this monitor or anything else that I used, please leave it in the comments. And if you like my content, please consider subscribing. It really helps out. Thank you so much and have a great day. Bye-bye.